Maybe. So what it means is this: for policy's sake, if we want to change, reduce corruption in Africa, what do we do? 60% women in parliament, 40% women in parliament, and we wipe out corruption. But it is a problematic because the arrow could go back. They couldn't trace how more women in parliament were leading to less corruption. It was just a kind of data. Beautiful, we're not doubting the method used, well-established method. But it could be that is less corruption that led to more women in parliament. Yeah. Because it has been theoretical possible. That in less corrupt countries, there are chances of women coming to parliament. So it may not actually be that more women in parliament who are reducing corruption. It may be that in less corrupt countries, there are chances of women coming to parliament. Are we seeing the problem with causality? See, if you are not doing that, they are not establishing causality. If you don't begin to deal with this. I'll give my example also because it's not only Dolan Co that did. This is my study. I published this study in Evolution and Human Behavior. I think it's rated #2 in Evolution and Psychology. And I did it with 2 Poles and 1 American. And what were we dealing with? We are dealing with number of children and marital satisfaction in. So, and we decided to try ourselves with that publication. And if just first place we sent it was Evolution and Human Behavior, and they published it. Why did they publish it? One, as I said, Fatah started in the morning. It was counterintuitive. But is it actually number of children that is leading to marital satisfaction or psychology? And that's what it means, is that there's something more to marital satisfaction than just number of children. And that's just like what we're saying. Satisfaction may not actually be the cause of number of children, but we have not traced that angle. Because if you need to do that, we need to start a causal study and to be able to trace the mechanism. What is marital satisfaction doing? Or what is number of children is doing? Once you realize that in doing in 37 countries, it didn't make any meaning, what it means that there's nothing dealing with. But now that we have something to study. We thought that we have rested that case and nobody should be talking about marital satisfaction, number of children, as far as science is concerned. But that means we need more questions. So that's it. That's what study is all about. So can we just, what you just need is just X leading through mechanism to Y. But we needed to do this for you to realize that there could be background variables. But they are not your interest. But they may also help you to build your case for X. Those possible things that may have led to X. Where we are. But there's to...
the stamina of the man that kicked the ball.
Oh yeah, that's that. Yes, something like that. So, but there's also possible other confounding variables. Other possible variables that may control. You need to control them. Because if you don't control them and the Y is still there, you may not actually be sure that it's X that is leading to Y. You understand? Just for illustration purposes. Yes, Fatah, please.
I think this helps us to address Latenwa's observation.
Yes. I think, yeah. So this is actually what it is. It may not be, you recognize that there are some other factors, but you need really to have a robust. But that doesn't happen just because you wish to. What it means is the design must be watertight. The design you are using must be watertight. And that's why in every study, even for policymakers, what they need to do is how do you produce the evidence. It's even more for scientists. That's why you know the reasons why they are causing it, then we can have policy intervention at this point. What it means, school feeding leads to, but if it's not leading to motivation, it can't produce this. So what do we do? We need a school feeding that produces motivation. If there's a school feeding that's not producing regular attendance, then we can't achieve this. You understand? So you have just summarized our thinking around causality. Yes. Okay. Okay. So just a kind of more explanation on this. We started with understanding what it means, but we can use maybe the words. Some of us in quantitative can relate with this. Those in qualitative can relate with this. We can call it maybe independent variable. We can call it the causes predictors. We can call it whatever. Causal factors. The mechanism can be intervening variable, can be mediating variables. That thing that lies in between the cause and effect is the power, as you said. The cause gives something that generates the energy for it to produce the final outcome. What is left for us as researchers is to be able to trace those things and be sure that this outcome is actually a product of these mechanisms. So that's actually what I mean. So I think we can move on. Do you have any question, please? Yes, Norma.
Does it mean that the moderating variables are not mechanisms?
They are not. Or do you think that? They are not. Okay. But mechanism may be mediators. You can use the word media, you can say media. The effect of the cause and effect may not be the same. It may be higher or lower. For example, we looked at class size the other side. Assuming that this class size, the school feeding in a smaller class size may produce higher level of motivation than school feeding in a large class.
Is that why we do not have arrows pointing to the outcome of course from the moderating?
Of course. Moderating variable is not causing this. It's not rather causing this, but it's there. As it's there for you to be interested in it. For those of us in quantitative science, you model moderators to see if this result will change for two categories of people. There's school feeding in one place. There's school feeding in another place. But the achievement is not the same for these two groups of people. That's a moderator. Why is it that this school feeding in one place producing motivation, the same motivation in the two places, but one is higher, the other one is low? It can be a contest. Maybe in Kenya there's school feeding, but it's not producing high motivation. But there's school feeding in Nigeria is producing high motivation. You can ask yourself questions. Why? Is something school food for thought, but it's not actually what is producing the effect, but it's changing the outcome a bit. So you will become more interested in that moderator. So that's actually what we mean. So, but in building your model, you may not bother so much about this. You can use that as design. You can design your study to recognize that. You know that school feeding size will affect it. You design to check, either to mix up, study the one in large class and study the one in big. If they are producing the same effect, you say, okay, it's not a problem for me. So it becomes a kind of, it helps in interpretation of your results. Yeah, okay. Thanks for that. Yes.
The moderating variables.
Yes.
I'm trying to look at the issue of context. Like
Yes. Yeah.
Does that not speak to the problem you raised earlier about the claims that most researchers make over here?
Yeah.
That because this has been done there, has not been done here. That's why we are setting out with this research. So if it's possible that context can influence outcome, does that not support that claim?
No. We are not against the claim. Nobody is against the claim, but we say we should claim with caution. We just claim that something doesn't exist, that human beings are the same. That when we cut people's leg in Nigeria, there will be no blood. You know that when you cut people's leg, there will be blood. It's established in Europe, and you start cutting people's leg here, and assuming that there's not going to be blood, you are doing no science, because you know that. And also to look at level of tolerance here and level of tolerance, because you know, maybe because of culture, you need to build our culture, because we have been insulated from pain or have been exposed to pain more than others. But there's something that will make meaning. The context should make meaning. But if it's something that doesn't make any meaning, no, it's a kind of doing things that along the line is not speaking to anybody. You are not producing any new evidence. That's just what we are saying. Context matters a lot. Matters a lot. Yeah. Okay. Even our tolerance of the word, you little shock the person will commit suicide. But somewhere, no matter the way you deal with the person, he's even smiling. You understand? And at a point they say Nigerians are the happiest people on earth. And people who are doubting. It may not be because things are good, but because their resilience level are high. And they may have developed it over years. Yes. Okay. All right. So can we quickly look at causal notions? You know, we have asked few questions. We are almost through with this session. We are going to start off hands-on, trying ourselves with our own concept note to see if we can build a model that recognizes causal factor, the mechanism, and outcome when we come back in the afternoon. But before we do that, let's try some of the questions we raised earlier by looking at causal notions. Causality can come in different ways. We can have very simple causal relationship, cause and effect. Some of them may be more complex. Some of them may also be the one that Stephen raised, a causal factor. Some of them may be multiple. So we can just look at them briefly to see some possibilities in cause and effect relationship. Okay. So we can have this. Conjunctures. In conjunctures, two or more causes can act together to produce an effect. Can you see, we're starting with you, Stephen. This is not just one factor, A causing B. It's possible. But there are some issues that require that 2 factors or 3 factors needed to be there to produce an effect. So if any of them is not there, the effect may not be felt, or at least in the intensity that is happening. So maybe I just give example to just this. We will look at decision making, free mental care, community sensitization, and increased access to referral. Assuming that there is no default decision making, access to referral may not be there. Assuming this paper was done by one of us, Susan, in our joint project we did in different parts of the country. She anchored that one in Kenya with his colleagues. I did one with Fataya and Ayo in Nigeria. So one of the studies came this way. So they realized that free mental care, health care will lead to increased access. But if you remove free mental care and allow only community sensitization, no matter you will not see anybody. Do you understand? But in the combination of this factor, you can see the combination, they are not individual, they are not affecting this individual, but they needed the 3 to produce an effect. That's what we mean by conjunctural factors. I think it happens a lot in social sciences. One factor may not actually produce an outcome. For example, poverty. What leads to poverty may not just be economic. Poverty is still high there. So it may be something. Maybe leadership may be important. They don't have money, or maybe a global or national level. Individual. This is just another one. This is just an explanation of the other one. You can see the picture here. This is chances that accident may not happen is there. As he is looking, but the door was not open, he can pass. Do you understand? The same thing with what we are seeing here. Maybe what led to that? Right now, very top speed. There's elephant crossing. There's also brake failure, and there's incoming vehicle that led to that. Because assuming that the height is just theoretical, or assuming that there is brake failure, elephant is crossing, speed driving, but there's no oncoming vehicle, can swerve and continue moving. Do you understand? So, but on its own. There's no economic recession, there's no corruption, but there's war. Tore the country apart. You can see high level of poverty. On the other, there is no economic recession. There's money everywhere. The amount of petrol, whatever, petroleum will sell in the international market every day is enough to develop the whole of Africa. So there is no problem with economic recession. In short, what Nigeria produces a day is enough to take care of the whole of Africa, and even more. But there is still poverty. And then maybe only corruption that is single-handedly producing this effect. Okay, all right. There's also what we call power dependence. In power dependence, maybe little explanation here. Well, it's just a cause that has a kind of enduring structural effect. Something happens, and over time, major other happenings continue to follow that path. In short, when we say you are power dependent, it means that one person follows here, another person follows here, another person follows here. It may be the longest route, but people just felt that that's the best way to follow. And some causes will endure that way. I'll give just one example to show it. Something like this. The development of typewriters in the have really, this has endured over time, including our telephone, and nobody knows when it will stop. So why should all technology follow that path that started with just simple typewriter? When the electronic typewriter came up, you followed it. The computers again followed it, and almost the keyboard are also having the column LKJ or whatever. Do you understand? We can change it in even a better. We have not even tried another part that didn't work, but it has continued to. Maybe another innovation may even be better, even maybe in our own way of reasoning. This one is even difficult because there's no pattern in the keys.
QWERTY.
Yes.
It's called a QWERTY keyboard.
Yes.
So if you put your hands
Yeah.
there, the way you type is the way you do it here, is the way the way they arrange the keys over here.
Over there. So but I was saying why? Why not just do it even A, B, C, D, so that it becomes easier? You understand? So so that even when you don't remember, you should be able to guess where A should be. But it has failed. And that's what we mean by power dependence. Most developmental strides, even our thinking, also follow that kind of power dependence in a way. Okay. All right. Then causal chain is the last we're going to deal with. Causal chain in terms of, it could be very straightforward. Democratic status leading to quality service delivery. Simple. That's the simplest of the causal relationship we are dealing with. But we'll say that this doesn't tell us the stories. but it can also solve. Most of the correlational studies will do this with this kind of thing. But it can be more than this. It could be this, leading to this, and leading to this. Simple is simple, but it's indirect simple chain. Some of them may be more complex than this. It could be series of events. This is a study I did with Fatai and Ayo on democratic status and service delivery in this part of the world. And we realized that democratic status led to pressure of government to perform. Because when we finished the study, there was a background. When we finished the study, we felt that a democratic elected local councils should be doing better in service delivery, security service delivery, in terms of at least at perception level, than those that are appointed. But when we got the result, we saw something opposite. Those that were appointed were perceived to be doing better. Then we decided to do more studies to unravel the mechanism. Why are they perceiving these people to be doing more? Realize that in democratic elected councils, there's pressure to perform by the citizens. And this pressure to perform makes them to create large, sometimes unrealistic projects, security projects, vigilante. We are going to pay in every ward. We are going to employ 100 vigilante groups. We are going to buy vehicles for them and this. They started the bet, was not sustainable. So these projects failed. And the people became more dissatisfied and the perception was low. So this is a kind of understanding the mechanism. Why are they really perceiving this local council as less? So this is it. This could be more complex. We could trace them from two major areas. Maybe pressure to perform an expansion of government institutions, you understand? All leading to poor service delivery. So it could be that. And so if you open any journal article today, especially those ones dealing with models and quantitative, this is the type of figures you see every time. And they need something to do that. You can use one method. Those who are doing a lot of structural equation models, regression or whatever. You can also do stories, how these things are happening. Our own, you use stories. You use regression at the first stage, but you use stories to tell what is going on. So we are not saying it's only one method. Don't say here, you are here. It's only for those that are quantitative that can do this, please. Okay, just like the Sheikh story. I will trace here and you could see Sheikh did this and this and this. But we know that this is the one that was valid, was proved. This one would have happened, but it never happened. Do you understand? Am I right? Okay. Okay. So just a kind of narrative of that. An individual is neglected by his parents. He comes to destroy others, and as a result has trouble maintaining friendship, has trouble in school, and eventually gets addicted to drugs. To support his happiness, he starts selling drugs and is ultimately arrested and convicted for drug trafficking. We're just looking at how can parents' neglect leads to drug trafficking. You can see the chains of events that actually resulted in that. So once you just child neglect leads to drug trafficking, it will not make meaning to many people. They need to know how is it actually producing that. Because you can do some studies and isolate these things, but they may not play out that way. Okay, so we may not have this. When we return, we can go about doing that. So surely we have almost eaten into our break time. But we can share in 1 or 2 minutes if we have anything to ask or what you need us to clarify, and we can go straight for our lunch break. Yes. Okay, Lillian, please. Okay. Did anybody get it, please? Did anybody get equifinality? Can you explain? Yes, Evelyn.
Yes, thank you so much. Excuse me. When it comes to business research, you use this a lot. Now, each of those parameters are taken as individual causes.
Yeah.
And they can affect poverty individually without combining any of them.
Yes.
And their effects will always be different. Yes. So the effect of economic recession on poverty might either be higher compared to the effect of war, compared to poverty, or corruption on poverty. Yes. So each of them stand as individual IVs or causes, which are not dependent on any of this. So each of them is like, I always want to use it, if you permit me.
Yeah, use it.
We are 3 of us here. We have Daniel, we have Lynn, and also we have Fina. So Fina is the person who wants to see her character. So when she interacts with Daniel, the way Daniel affects her is totally different. It's not dependent on my interaction. And my interaction with her will actually produce a different character, which is not dependent on Daniel. And the same will apply to Lynn. The way Lynn affects is totally different, which is not contingent on our interaction here.
Good. Lynn, do you appreciate what you say?
Yes.
So the difference between this and conjunctural is that in conjunctural, anyone that is not there may lead to this not happening. So the other one is dependent on the other one to happen. If the person is careful, even if you have opened the door, you can navigate. But the other ones are happening, whether they're there or not, it will still produce an effect. Like as he said, for her in economics or political science or whatever, if you are doing something like regression, you bring all the factors to play. But you can decide which of the factors is contributing more than the other. But they're all contributing. But they don't need a combination. In the other one, you need a combination. Anyone that is not there may lead to the effect not happening. So which is different from equifinality. What it means is that they're all equal factors. They're all factors in their own right. That's it. Yes?
The next slide, please.
Yes? The next slide. Okay.
The very last.
Very last. Is it on what? Okay.
No, the boy and drug trafficking.
Okay.
The narrative.
This one. Now, this boy who is neglected, you see the neglected and the ends at drug trafficking. Now, the story in between, is that the story?
That is the Z, the mechanism.
The description.
The mechanism.
The mechanism.
Yes.
Now, that is our Z?
Yes.
Which is also not the
You can have Z1, Z2, one leading to another. Yes.
I wanted to understand.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the Z. What we need here is to tell a story without a diagram. It can be through a story, it could be diagrammatic, it can be done in different ways. This is just one way of understanding these mechanisms. So for some of us who are not interested in using models or using figures or using diagrams, you can tell the story. And it's now left for you to develop a method that can help you to tell the story. So that's it. So you shouldn't just be looking at neglect and child trafficking or trafficking in drugs. Look at the reasons why neglect should be able to do that. And you can use through your ethnography, phenomenological approach, you can still achieve this. But it requires skills. Yes.
Prof, I'm just looking at this with the diagram that you put on C.
Yeah.
In direct relationship.
Yes.
Neglect leads to distrust, which leads to troubled friendship, which leads to this, then eventually you see the drug trafficking. And so I'm actually looking at it with the C, where you put the chain of the four.
As soon as you have opportunity of giving assignment, I promise that I'm a repentant person. If not, I'm a repentant person, I would have given you assignment on this. Maybe to convert this to a diagram. But you can do that on your own. When you get this slide, you can just take time and know if you can depict this thing in diagrammatical form. So you can make more meaning. Huh? Okay, all right. Thank you. I think we have been wonderful this morning. Yeah.
Quickly, we want to have a brief discussion with one of our facilitators, and he is an organizational psychologist from the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, and he has been facilitating one of the modules. We'll briefly have a short discussion with him and find out what has been happening throughout the sessions and what we should expect in the next few days to come. Prof, you're welcome to AAU Television.
All right, thank you, Sam. I'm really happy to be with you this morning.
Great. PEDAL keeps surprising us all the time. We were here some few months ago talking about pedagogical leadership. This time around, we are back to Ibadan and we are discussing advanced or multi-method and policy-oriented research. Why do we need such a discussion or such a training in a period like this?
Okay. PASGA has really been pioneering a research revolution in Africa. And I'm privileged to be associated with this for the past 6 years. I was a trainee sometime in 2013, 2014. And since then, I have joined the facilitating team as a faculty member. And the reason why we continue to think about research is that research will surely drive the African development. And social science has a lot of role to play. It's not just about technological breakthrough, it's also about adopting technology, it's about changing the way we do things, it's about changing the attitude of our leaders, changing the attitude of citizens, and social science has a lot of role to play in this regard. So building capacity of African scholars to be able to do groundbreaking research and research that contributes to development is very important, and I think that's what PASGA is trying to do, and that's what we have been doing so far.
Great. So in the rooms I was there yesterday, you could see that it was a mixture of entry researchers, or let's say early career researchers, and some astute researchers as well. Now, what is so different for them?
Okay, I think it's a very, very good combination. This intergenerational mix is really important. We have very seasoned, experienced researchers, and we have also very young researchers, some of them starting their PhDs, so which is good, because what we have realized in the past is that when young scholars come in here, they're excited, they are amazed with the new things they're learning, but the major challenge is that they find it difficult to also practice this, especially when they're still developing. So what it means is that we needed also to have people who have also experienced researchers to also understand what is going on, to retool, because the short thing is that they need to be doing it right. We need to do it in another way, because African research is really not where it's supposed to be. As you know, we are contributing less than 1% of research output in the world, and what it means, we are not doing good research. We need to do better. So both experienced and less experienced researchers needed also to retool, so that we begin to produce research that's evidence-based. So having this kind of mix is good. The experienced one can share the experiences with the upcoming ones, while the upcoming ones also could learn, and they can have a kind of a critical mass of scholars who will understand what it means to do research that will produce evidence that will influence policy or inform policy.
Great. And so what are some of the models that the participants will be studying within the next 14 days? Okay,
here we have majorly 4 modules for the advanced research design, and we have another 2 modules we'll take as electives. The 4 modules in advanced research design, we started yesterday with designing social inquiry, and that is actually focused on designing good research work, which is very important at the basic for doing good research. So we started and we'll do that for 4 days. After that, we are going to take on mixed method research, and that's just exposing them to using both quantitative and qualitative research, and combining that to produce research that is really valid, evidence-based, that can give them confidence to speak to policy actors, and as well publish good papers that also will be competing with papers coming from other parts of the world. Then we also have the critical policy engaged research as the 3rd one, and that will be about looking at how research can speak to policy, how policy can also speak, and have a kind of a mix. That's what that model will be dealing with. Then the last one will be just a 1-day module on ethics, because we feel that ethics is very important, especially for African researchers, because of the challenges that we have here. We feel that ethics should be at the base, so we'll be doing a day model on that. So after that, they'll take elective. Either they do a gender social science research, or they take on impact evaluation. So they'll be running concurrently, so no participant will be expected to do 2 at the same time. But they have opportunity of doing that later, maybe next year when we'll do another round of this training. So we'll continue to have 1 or 2 method modules in each of our deliveries. So that's what we're expecting for the next 14 days or so.
Great. So you're absolutely right. Africa contributes less than 1% of the knowledge economy globally. But my question is, how do we build a very robust research system in African universities and Africa as a whole to be able to kind of meet?
Universities are not actually focusing on training people to become researchers. So there is a disconnect. They want to have PhDs that are talking about numbers of PhDs produced, but it's not actually what we should be emphasizing. We should be emphasizing quality PhDs, because it's important to train scholars to become researchers, not just to earn a degree, but to learn the rudiments of research. So what I feel a way out is also what PASGA is doing. Beyond the training on research method done by university, there should be a kind of this kind of training, maybe a short training, maybe summer schools in different universities, clusters of universities that can have summer schools for upcoming researchers when they learn rudiment of research as part of their PhD training. So I think it's very important, because once they develop these skills, they will be able to do research that are comparable and competitive, because we have the same space. Top journals look for top scholars, and they also publish good research. So we need that space, and we cannot occupy that space if you are not doing also good research like others. So that's one. And also we need also to produce research that will inform policy. And we cannot produce research that will inform policy if the evidence are not watertight. What it means is that if we depend on such kind of evidence, policy will miss policy actors, or policy makers, policy actors, and that's under development. So I think that's where we are. That's why.
So you have been a facilitator for some time now. What do you make of the entry level of the participants when they come in? Are there times where their whole knowledge has been distorted? I know before they come in, they bring in concept note. When you compare their entry point to their exit point, do you see any differences in terms of knowledge, in terms of experience that they have acquired?
Yes, I think it's expected that they come here with a lot of information. Some of them are relevant, some of them are important for them to start off, but we have this is a 10-day program, but it's something, a turning point for many people. It was a turning point for me, and it has remained a turning point for many scholars, because you have been doing it, but we have not been getting it right. So you come here, you are exposed to real research issues, and they always go back overwhelmed, and they acquire a lot of knowledge, but it's really what to take a little bit step by step. Yes, there you can see that I've started well, but every day you can see a kind of an improvement in what they're doing. Some of them came here with quantitative background, very difficult to shift. Some come with qualitative background, they're also very difficult, but by the time they stay here for 2, 3, 4 days, they begin to see the relevance of each of the methods. By the time they come back to talk about mixed method and others, they are already exposed to knowing the value of combining methods. And I'm so happy and emotional also about this program. As after my exposure, I was allowed to participate as a facilitator, and I have done something that I feel is really important to me. So what I do here is that you can see I have about 4 of my faculty members here, and the 2 will be joining in the methods, in the electives. So I have a grant. I have instituted a grant in my faculty to support faculty members who attend this program. You know, this is the first time it's holding in Nigeria. It was in Nairobi, and even when they are supported by PASGA, they also find it difficult to pay their flight ticket. So what I've done is also to use the little resources I have to support them to pay their tickets. I know it's not enough for them to do that, but at least it gives them confidence that what we are doing is a serious issue, because if it has impacted on my own career, I believe it will also impact on them. And so far we have gotten almost 10 scholars from my university attended this program, and they continue to give testimonies of how the program has changed them. And my colleagues have also seen the transformation in the scholars. Maybe my own personal, I can share my own personal experience. Okay, I came in here in as a participant in 2013 to 14, and after that, my scope changed, and I will also say my career changed. I started writing better proposals, and from there I was able to apply for Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship in Germany, and as you know, it's one of the most competitive fellowship, and also one of the most I would say life-changing fellowships, because once you have a Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship, it's for life. You are supported throughout your life career as a researcher. So I got it, and I spent the 2 years in Germany, and they sponsored not only myself but my family. So we spent 2 years at the University of Munster, where I also did some few good studies, and got some of my few papers published in very, very good journals. So I returned back to Nigeria late last year, and Alexander von Humboldt also followed me to Nigeria. They continue to support my research, and they gave me 1 year again support, and they have continued to support my research that may be ending in this September. And after that, I also have opportunity of exploring other opportunities of Lazada or Humboldt. So for me, it's life-changing. It has continued to do that, and I have continued also to have not only publishing papers, but also publishing papers that are creating impact and very, very good journals. So, and my colleagues are also benefiting. I've also worked with my colleagues in some of these research projects, but I also want them to come to this program, and they are happy. So far, they have also started giving testimony. I've spent just one day and already giving testimony, thanking me for exposing them to this kind of training. I do hope that we have enough resources to continue to expose more scholars to this program. Not only this program, but program that will build them, give them the necessary platform to operate as scholars. So that's.
So most of the time, African universities have been chastised that they produce research outputs that are just shelved. They are not even of quality to even talk about commercialization. As an astute researcher and academic in universities, if we are pushing for research reforms in universities, can you give us 3 things that we must pay attention to?
One is research quality. The quality in terms of rigor. You need to produce evidence that is convincing, that is following standard research scientific procedures. When you produce that, the chances of pushing them out of the university will be high. Secondly, the universities also need to engage. They need to move out of their comfort zone, not just producing research, but producing research for the society. What it means that the society needed to know, and that's what I mean in terms of commercialization. And finally, they really need to engage government. Right. They need to engage government because you can see that most African universities are funded by government. The government, it seems to not to care about what they are producing. They send universities on an errand to produce scholars and produce evidence, and they are not following this evidence, meaning university need not to continue to wait. They need to begin to engage government. Beyond engaging other stakeholders, they need to specifically engage government to make sure that they value the resources they are investing in universities.
There is one disheartening phenomenon happening at universities where students who are even researchers are not actually doing their own research, but they are employing research institutions, not even institutions, people to just kind of, or they are outsourcing their research work for people to do for them, even at the highest level, let's say PhD. Is it so worrisome for us as academics? Must we be worried about this phenomenon? And what should we do to stop such an occurrence? Is it good for us? Is it bad? What must we do?
I think it's not good. That's just the simple fact. But I think there's not really an issue that we cannot correct. It depends on what we want to use these PhDs for. I think it should start from the society. In other parts of the world, if you have a doctorate and you cannot do anything, you can't get employed. So it becomes a useless degree. And if people know that they are going to pay to get a degree that doesn't worth anything, they will not do that. So it has to do with also the way our employment policies, the way we do our things. If we are looking for scholars who are good and we have a way of identifying them, and universities are evaluated based on what they are producing. So what it means is that people should be looking for universities that are giving them the necessary skills to excel. In other part of the world, in Europe, for example, Germany, Netherlands, in the US, people don't buy certificates because you need to be employed, and nobody will employ you if you are not producing. So if you're able to help someone to get a doctorate, they buy their doctorate. Would they be buying their papers? They cannot. Would they be buying the skills to train students? They will not. So they cannot rise. So even if they get employed in universities, they won't be able to perform, and because of that, they get frustrated out of the system. So the thing is that it's not a one-way traffic. We need to also to reorganize our system to be able to recognize merit, and once they begin to recognize merit, then students will also know the relevance of acquiring skills. So PhD is not about the certificate. It should be about training people on how to acquire skills, and we need also to look at how to measure these skills. So the measurement of PhD should not be just about maybe 1 week oral, 1 day viva. We need maybe to be innovative in terms of assessing how the output. If we can think through that in terms of quality of where they are producing or they publishing these papers and how they are doing that. So I think it may go a long way to really change the orientation.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, Professor Ernest Onyishi. We will still follow up throughout the presentations and find out what is happening. Thank you.
Hello there and welcome to yet another episode of AAU Impact Stories on AAU Television, a program dedicated to celebrating academic mentors all over Africa. Today, the AAU cameras are back in Ghana and we are on the campus of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, where we have identified an academic icon who is going to tell us his life story. Follow us on AAU TV and on our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, and our dedicated website, tv.aau.org. Before I introduce the personality for the day, let's go for a short break.
In 1961, a joint special fund project between the government of Ghana and the United Nations to develop the public administrative system resulted in the creation of what we know today as Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA. Then, our mandate was to train civil servants with professional competence to plan and administer national, regional, and local services. More than 50 years later, GIMPA has transformed itself into a leading management development institute in Africa. We have emerged as an internationally renowned and respected institute with a strong reputation as a center of excellence in teaching, learning, and management development. With an experienced faculty with international connections, motivated students, and supportive administrative staff, GIMPA has positioned itself as an innovative, self-financing institution with repeatable academic programs in leadership and governance, business, technology, and law. The GIMPA Business School is the flagship program, enrolling more than 2/3 of the total GIMPA student body. From its establishment in 1987 as Green Hill College, the school now offers 11 undergraduate degree specializations, 5 postgraduate certificates and diplomas, and over 10 master's programs. And the school was the first Ghana member of the Association of African Business Schools.
Hello there and welcome back to AAU Impact Stories, where we are celebrating academic icons. Today I have with me the former rector of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, Professor Yao Ajiman Bedu. Prof, this is AAU TV and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm pleased to be here this morning.
Okay. First, we are delving a little bit into your childhood experiences. The name itself, Yao Ajiman Bedu, and your humble demeanor speaks of a very humble beginning. Can you walk us through your life stories up to the secondary school level?
Okay. I was born in a small town in the Ashanti region of Ghana called Safo. It's about 14 miles from Kumasi, which is the capital of Ashanti region. I grew up in a large family, I mean huge family. As my name suggests, you know, the old folks who know this, Yao Ajiman Bedu. I'm the last born, the 10th born of my mother. So okay. It was so special those days. You get Ba means son, and then DU means 10, Badu 10th born. So literally. That is the Akan
meaning or Akan translation of the name?
Yes. Okay. So I got that name. And also my dad had, you know, a second wife with 11 children. So really I grew up in a large family, raised in the town or village, you know, early childhood. I started my education at Safo Presby Primary School. And I tell people that most of the values that I hold today actually I learned from early childhood in the town and also at the church. The Presby Church is almost like the Boy Scout, you know, don't tell a lie, you know, don't disrespect anybody older than you, respect all your elders. So I grew up with all these values. And also growing up, you know, with 21 children in the family. And unfortunately for us, the old man died when I was just a little kid. So it was left with my 2 mothers and my older brothers and sisters to take care of the rest of us. So you learn to be humble, you learn to also learn from the old ones and listen to them. So that's how I grew up, and the idea or the conception of hard work and doing what you are told to do. I learned all of this from the family, from school, and from the church. I think these are the three influences.
Rule in mentoring you right from inception. Well, now, when you completed your primary school, I believe that you also had some ambitions, career ambitions. What secondary school did you attend, and what were your career ambitions then?
Okay, if I don't say this, they will kill me. I attended the best secondary school in Ghana, Asanteman Secondary School.
Wow, Asanteman Secondary School.
Yeah. In those days, you took the common entrance examination at Form 3, and then you go to secondary school.
Okay.
My family, we didn't have really money to continue. In fact, all my older brothers, they were not able to leave from Form 3 to go to secondary school because couldn't afford to pay the fees. I was the first one able to go to secondary school as a day student because I couldn't go to boarding house.
Okay.
Fortunately for me, in the first semester, I got Cocoa Marketing Board scholarship. So I was able to go to the boarding house. And since we are in education, I must say this, at this point in my life, I'm sold on the free, high school education in Ghana because I come from a family where these guys ahead of me were so intelligent, but they couldn't go to secondary school right away. So I'm thinking that these days, if we can afford for everybody to go, that's what we should do as a nation.
You broke the yoke to become the trailblazer, and others followed, I guess.
Right, but I said they couldn't go right away to secondary school, but they were able to, they took a longer way, but all of them eventually were able to complete secondary schools and training colleges and became successful in their own right.
Okay, so in secondary school, what were your dreams?
Secondary school, it was just to study, pass your O-level exams, pass your A-level exams. That's all we knew. Just to study hard, play hard, have fun, but always the exams was at the back of your mind.
Okay.
Especially if you come from a village and now you are in the city, and if you don't pass, you may end up again in the village.
Okay.
And you don't want to do that. So, ambitions, careers, we didn't know anything about that. Went to secondary school, and that was like my first or second time in Kumasi, so very raw from the village, and all I knew was just the books, and then to study hard and make something out of my life. But what I wanted to do, I had no idea.
You had no idea then.
At that time.
Then you entered the University of Ghana in 1971.
Right. But even that, before that, let me tell one of my remarkable stories, and this one is recorded in the annals of GIMPA.
Okay.
The school I attended to didn't have sixth form at that time. I was a pure science student, and imagine doing science at a school where you didn't even have laboratories and things like that, and you're studying science. So if I failed my physics exams
at the O level,
so I couldn't go to sixth form. And I had a family member who was at a university professor, and he said, look, you've passed to go to the university, so there's no point in wasting time. So he advised me how to do it. So for 2 years, I stayed home and studied for my A-levels on my own. So in 2 years' time, when my mates got to University of Ghana, I was there with them.
Wow.
And they were asking me, how did you do it? Yes. And I said, well, I did it. But I had to change from science to arts.
Okay.
And, I tell people to date, I consider that to be my biggest achievement. academically.
Wow.
And a lot of my classmates, once I was able to do it, they would say, oh, if Ajima Bedu can do it, we can also do it.
Then they can do spirit.
Yes, and they were all started coming, those who couldn't go to sixth form.
This is remarkable.
And I'm so proud of that achievement.
Okay.
So in 71, I went to the University of Ghana.
Okay.
Studied economics, political science, and sociology in my, for my first university exams. In those days, after the first university exams, there were 3 options. Either you get kicked out, or you do general arts, or you did honors.
Okay.
But for the first time at the University of Ghana, they introduced what they call combined honors degree.
Okay.
So at that point, I dropped sociology, and I took economics and political science for my degree. That was the first time the university introduced, and I was among the beneficiaries of that.
20 years on, I also read economics and political science from the same universities.
We were the pioneers.
Okay. Right, that is good to know.
Yes, we were the pioneers.
So you graduated in economics and political science combined?
Combined.
Okay.
They didn't call it double honors, they just call it combined honors, as opposed to my mates who did honors in economics or honors in political science.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you work before you pursued your master's degree?
No work experience whatsoever. As soon as I finished University of Ghana, I was fortunate to get a scholarship to the University of South Carolina. So 2 days after my exams at Legon, I packed my bags and I was gone.
Viewers, this is very interesting. We are talking to Professor Yao Ajimambedu, former rector of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration. He's talking about his life story before doing his master's program abroad. Let's go for a short break, and when we come back, we shall talk about Professor Yao Ajimambedu's exploits after his bachelor's degree at the University of Ghana. Stay tuned.
As a center of excellence, GIMPA has signed numerous MOUs with multilateral agencies, NGOs, universities, and management development institutions across the globe. We are also engaged in a number of initiatives and programs with various foundations and groups. One such collaboration is with the African Capacity